Urgent. Even Putin's friends are fleeing the parade. No one wants to be seen at the occupiers show. Kremlin guests are calling in sick en masse. Even loyal allies are looking for any excuse not to fly to Moscow on May 9th. The parade is turning into a farce from which even the most devoted are running away. Even their own no longer trust the Kremlin. So what can be expected from the victory parade this year and who might attend it? Watch in the report.
Moscow is buried in snow. Forest fires are raging in Russian regions. But the preparation for Putin's parade does not stop for a single day. A list of prohibited items will be in effect at the May 9th parade in Moscow. It contains 26 items, including eggs and vapes. May 9th is approaching. The temperature is rising higher and higher, so Putin's friends are suddenly falling ill.
I think that those who are planning to come to Russia have much more courage than those who hide behind someone else's back and try to threaten anyone.
Taking sick leave is the easiest option when you can't publicly say no to the Russian dictator, but you understand that you need to avoid global condemnation.
I would also be glad to see you in Moscow for the May 9th celebrations. We are eagerly awaiting him in Russia for the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War in World War II. Mr. Xi Jinping has been invited to participate in the celebration of the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War on May 9th.
Despite Putin's efforts, the self-preservation instinct has already kicked in for three leaders right before the celebratory parade. The president of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, suddenly felt unwell during his trip to the USA and returned to Serbia, canceling all scheduled meetings. Dr. Dincic from the Military Medical Academy stated that the cause of Vučic's discomfort was a sudden increase in blood pressure.
For many years, I have been involved in monitoring the health of the president of Serbia. In the last 10 years, he has had similar issues 3 times, against the backdrop of high blood pressure. While in America, he experienced chest pain, which was intense but brief. He received additional therapy, which was quite intensive.
Another European leader, the Prime Minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico, also reported sudden health problems. Amid worsening health, Fico has cancelled his work schedule several times at the last minute in recent days. The alleged reasons are serious health problems that arose after last year's assassination attempt on Fico. But is that really the case? Currently in Slovakia and Serbia, despite the leaders' ailments, they confirm their intention to visit Putin in Moscow, despite threats from Brussels.
On the occasion of the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War in World War II, we will celebrate this anniversary together.
Ukraine does not guarantee safety on May 9th, but these two have sworn to come to Putin to pay their respects. They are worried about the dispersals, which he is not.
Now they are worried that their parade is in question. And they are right to be worried. But they should be concerned that this war continues. They should end the war.
Even the Minister of Defense of India decided not to go to Moscow for the May 9th parade after Prime Minister Narendra Modi cancelled his visit to Russia. Now India will be represented at the parade by Deputy Minister of Defense Sanjay Seth.
For all of us, this is the biggest holiday, a sacred day. We honor the memory of 27 million who perished. Among them are grandfathers and great-grandfathers and those who live in Ukraine today. Therefore, this decision should unite and remind us that we are one people.
Recently, Lukashenko thanked Putin for the invitation to the parade in Moscow and confirmed that he cannot not attend. Then his press service announced that he will definitely be there, but he might be late. For the 3rd year in a row, Lukashenko leaves Putin immediately after the parade, not waiting for lunch. At the moment, the Kremlin has confirmed a 4-day visit by Xi Jinping to Moscow. Volodymyr Zelensky warned that Ukraine is not going to provide security guarantees for visitors at the parade.
We cannot be held responsible for what happens on the territory of the Russian Federation. They provide you with security, and therefore we will not give you any guarantees, because we do not know what Russia will do on these days. It can take various, let's say, actions on its side. Arson, explosions, and so on. And then blame us.
Kremlin spokesperson Peskov condemns Ukraine and its president for seeing the three-day truce as a theatrical performance organized before the parade.
This is a test of Ukraine's readiness for peace. And we, of course, will be waiting for unequivocal final statements. And most importantly, actions aimed at de-escalating the conflict during the holidays. The regime's unwillingness to directly respond to Russia's proposal clearly shows that the ideological basis of today's Kiev regime is neo-Nazism.
Ahead of the parade, the Kremlin is deploying all air defenses to Red Square.
I think everything will be concentrated on Red Square. We currently have good capabilities for producing long-range weapons. So if desired, we can plan such an operation.
These are Chinese military personnel in the center of Moscow. They are also preparing for May 9th, wanting to march in Putin's parade. St. George ribbons, pilot caps, and Russian songs. Children from Mali are preparing for May 9th. Meanwhile, in a kindergarten in Dagestan, children were dressed in military uniforms and, for some reason, seated not in Ladas but in German Mercedes cars.
Hooray! 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 Hooray!
A similar story is happening on the streets of Voronezh.
Independent suspensions, carriages, automatics, engines with the power of 1 pavilion force.
In Sevastopol, victory trolleybuses have started running. They feature St. George ribbons and the sculpture The Motherland Calls. In the cities of Kazakhstan, they were not allowed to hold a parade on May 9th, similar to Russia's Immortal Regiment.
On the 80th anniversary of victory, we support the Immortal Regiment March through the streets of Almaty and Kazakhstan.
Well, this is the height of cynicism. The destroyed Ukrainian Bakhmut is adorned with billboards for May 9th. In a word, victory frenzy. In Russia, May 9th has long lost its humanistic meaning. Over the last quarter century, it has transformed from a day of remembrance into a tool of Putin's state propaganda.
Putin. Putin is the president of peace. Hooray!
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now. Hell for the occupiers! The Ukrainian self-propelled artillery Bodana obliterates enemy positions. With each shot, Russian depots, equipment, and soldiers are hit. It's hot near Kupiansk and Toretsk. The Ukrainian armed forces strike accurately and painfully. And behind enemy lines, there's a real mess. Ukrainian drones hit Russian military bases mercilessly. The Kremlin is in shock. The losses are counted in hundreds every day. All the details are coming up.
The domestic Bodana installation is currently stopping an infantry assault in Toretsk, and we need more of such weapons. Partners may be here today and gone tomorrow, these guys say. We can stand firm if we have our own, and it's hard to disagree with them. Fire! Fire. The Bodana gun is convincing proof that the mass production of complex combat systems in Ukraine is possible. I got used to this remarkable gun. We already know absolutely everything about it. At the time of the invasion, there was only one prototype of the domestic 155 mm caliber installation. Fire! And last year, Ukraine produced 154 guns for the military, and now it manufactures more than 20 Bodana guns per month. As of now, this is the highest rate of artillery production in Europe. We need to produce both ammunition and weapons. As practice shows, partners may be here today and gone tomorrow, and we won't have anything to shoot with. Although the Bodana is not as automated as its Western counterparts, here near Toretsk, the gun has proven to be a very accurate and long-range weapon. Fire when ready. Fire. It's a tough direction. 20, 30, 40 shells per day are used. The Russians are just gaining momentum. It's summer now, and for them, everything is just beginning. The defense of Toretsk is the longest battle of the entire war with Russia, over 10 months longer than Bakhmut. The 100th Brigade and other units currently hold about 1/5 of the city. There is no front line here. Ukrainian positions can be deep in the enemy's rear and vice versa. In Toretsk itself, the enemy has lost more than 15,000 soldiers. Thousands of bodies lie among the ruins of the city because no one retrieves them.
There are constantly many of them, too many. It feels like they never end and never will. But to say that they have had any significant success, no, they haven't. There is partial success, but I'll say this. If we lose a position, at a certain time of day, that position is destroyed, along with whatever entered it.
The Russians do not spare their own. If they notice the Ukrainian armed forces taking prisoners, they try to eliminate them. Ukrainian artillery and drones cut off all the occupiers' roads. But the Russians do the same. Most of the defeats occur when entering and exiting Toretsk. The Toretsk direction remains one of the most intense. Without Toretsk, the occupiers cannot encircle Kostiantynivka, the main logistics center of the Ukrainian defense.
Fire!
Therefore, there is a lot of work here for Ukrainian artillerymen. The commander of the American Paladin unit of the 100th Brigade is convinced that even in the era of drones, artillery has not lost its relevance, especially in Toretsk. Is artillery still relevant?
Yes. It remains relevant because it covers the infantry. Artillery is artillery. You can't do without it either. You can't quickly block or suppress an assault without it. That is, FPVs strike more precisely while we can deliver a massive strike, completely covering a certain area.
The Russian occupiers cannot hide, and the Ukrainian defense forces are destroying the enemy. Ukrainian armed forces sappers struck a ground shelter where the enemy was hiding using the Vampire UAV. And here, on the Kharkiv front, Ukrainian fighters used a UAV to destroy a platoon of occupiers and enemy equipment. This means that the families of Russian occupiers who went to war against Ukraine continue to receive coffins. This time the unpleasant package came from the Kherson region. To justify the losses and supposedly show their strength, the occupiers have intensified shelling of populated areas. First, they drop aerial bombs, and then they cover the same area with artillery.
The Russians are attacking exclusively civilian infrastructure in the controlled territories of the Kherson region. Primarily, this involves striking energy infrastructure facilities. That is, they are trying to create chaos, panic, and distrust towards the actions of central and local authorities. It should be noted that the Russian side's ability to conduct large-scale landing operations in this area has been reduced to almost zero.
And the Russian occupation army does not cease its attempts to capture Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region. However, despite all the efforts that the Russians have made over the past few months, their attempts are in vain. The invaders have not been able to approach the city.
At the moment, Ukrainian defense forces have pushed the occupiers back 2 to 2.5 kilometers from Pokrovsk to their previously held positions. Moreover, there is a prospect of restoring the location of Ukrainian defense forces in the Medzhov area. In addition, on the second flank, in the area of the settlement of Shevchenko, Ukrainian defense forces are preventing the enemy from expanding their zone of presence.
And while the Russians are making new plans, the Ukrainian armed forces are taking action. The Ukrainian army is already deploying the latest robots on the front, writes The Telegraph. One of the representatives of combat technology is the Snake robot. In 2025, Ukraine plans to deploy up to 15,000 similar platforms.
This is a ground robot designed for mine clearance. It should be noted that, according to Ukrainian specialists, the technical characteristics of this robot allow it to clear up to 2 hectares of mined terrain. It moves close to the ground, neutralizes mines, and is remotely operated by an operator from a protected shelter. This minimizes the possibility of direct impact on the operator of this ground robot.
Ukraine is focused on creating robots on a large scale to assist the armed forces on the front line. An example of this is a separate unit of the Unmanned Systems Force.
The Ukrainian side is scaling up the direct use of combat drones in real combat conditions. In addition, the Ukrainian side is taking an innovative approach to the development of unmanned aerial vehicles. This refers to FPV drones, which are designed specifically to neutralize Russian reconnaissance drones and accordingly Geran-2 strike drones.
But in Russia, it was once again very loud and bright. Oh.
It's already scary. Wow.
This is one of the largest ammunition depots burning, the 51st Grau Arsenal. According to some reports, this depot can store about 270,000 tons of ammunition, artillery shells, rockets for MLRs, components for SAM systems, tactical missiles like Tochka-U.
The distance from the line of combat contact to the 51st Grau Arsenal itself is about 530 to 550 kilometers. Notably, the distance from the arsenal itself to the capital of the occupying country is about 60 kilometers. It should be noted that this area is the most saturated with air defense and missile defense systems.
This is already the 4th Grau Arsenal destroyed since the year 24. In total, there are 11 such facilities in Russia.
These are colossal losses for the Russian side. It should be noted that according to estimates by the Ukrainian intelligence community, after the destruction of 3 Grau depots in the year 2024, the intensity of fire damage by the Russian Federation decreased significantly. If previously there were up to 40,000 shells per day, then after the destruction of the Grau depots, this figure decreased to approximately 16 to 17,000.
It would be better for the Russians to strengthen their leaky air defense, as the number of depots is becoming fewer and fewer. And who knows, maybe the 5th one is already in the crosshairs.
That's all for now. For more fiery news from the front, watch the next episode.